Before angels and demons, before heaven and hell, there was only light and darkness, locked in a battle that shaped the soul of the world. In the beginning, there was not chaos, but a tensionless silence, vast and still, like a breath held before a word is spoken. Before the world was born, before time uncoiled, two great forces stood opposed, not in a clash of swords or thunder, but in the deeper conflict of essence itself. One was light, one was darkness. They did not merely exist, they were existence. They were the question and the answer. They were the heartbeat of all that would come to be. From this sacred silence rose Ahura Mazda, the wise lord, luminous and eternal. He was not born, for light needs no genesis. He simply was, pure consciousness, infinite goodness, the flame that sees without eyes. He stood in boundless light, where all was harmony, truth, and unerring purpose. From his thought alone sprang the Amasya Spentis immortal aspects of virtue, truth, order, devotion, wholeness, immortality, and righteous mind. They were not gods, but emanations of his will, expressions of divine design flowing into the cosmos. Yet unborn, but no light casts itself into a world without casting shadows. From the deep void opposite the realm of light came Angra Mainyu, the destructive spirit. He too was self-created, but from denial, not affirmation, not the mirror of Ahura Mazda, but the rejection of all he stood for, a being of ignorance, wrath, deceit, and decay. Where Ahura Mazda offered Asha, the order that binds all truth together, Ahriman birthed Druj deception, the poison of all that is pure. This was not a war of egos or jealous thrones. This was older than myth, deeper than Taima, war of principles, of two irreconcilable realities, vying not just for dominion, but for the very shape of existence itself. When Ahura Mazda beheld Ahriman, he did not attack. The wise lord saw the evil, named it, and enclosed it for a time. In this moment was born the central pillar of Zoroastrianism, choice. The cosmos would be a battlefield, not because light and darkness hated each other, but because beings, gods, mortals, all must choose between them. The world would not be made in total perfection, nor total ruin, but in the tension between the two, so that choice would matter and free will would shine. Thus Ahura Mazda created the world as a trap for evil. He built a cosmos of 7 creations: sky, water, earth, plants, animals, humanity, and fire. Each one sacred, each one aligned with the Amasya, and into this world he placed his final, most daring creation man, a thinking being, mortal, fallible, yet capable of discerning truth. The human mind was made the battleground of the cosmos, the place where the greater war would be fought. But Ahriman was not idle. The destructive spirit saw the radiance of creation and, with furious envy, unleashed his own 7 counter-forces demons that mocked the Amasya Spentis. They brought disease where there was healing, lies where there was truth, war where there was order. The two sets of powers clashed across creation, and the earth shook with the birth of time itself. Into this balance of forces came Zoroaster, known to his people as Zarathustra, not a myth, but a man, a prophet, a priest, a voice born into a world. On fire, carrying the message of the divine flame, he was not given a sword, but a vision. Not sent to conquer with armies, but with ideas. He walked among men not to rule, but to remind them of their cosmic duty, to align with Asha, to choose the light even when the night whispered louder, from the banks of the sacred river to the hearts of kings. Zoroaster preached a simple yet shattering truth. The universe is moral. Every thought, every word, every action shapes the balance of the eternal war. This is not a battle that angels alone can fight. It is a war waged in kitchens and marketplaces, in the beating of every human heart. He taught that good is not passive, it is active resistance against the lie. Truth is a sword, not a silence. Asha must be lived through honesty, charity, humility, and the tending of fire, both literal and spiritual. In the sacred flame of the fire temple, Zoroastrians did not merely see warmth, but the eye of God watching the world. In every flicker, the echo of Ahura Mazda's first thought, and so humanity became the axis upon which the fate of creation turned. No longer pawns of divine will, they were co-creators, holy warriors of intention. Each good deed was a spear thrust into the heart of falsehood. Each evil act a crack in the armor of truth. Yet the war was not to be eternal. Ahura Mazda foresaw an end, a day when time would fulfill its purpose, when evil, exhausted by its own futility, would be undone. The final renovation of the world, the Frasho Careti, was promised, not a destruction, but a purification, a time when Ahriman and his legions would be banished forever, when the dead would rise, the righteous would shine, and all would become as light. No more war, no more choice, only the triumph of what had always been meant to be. But until then, the battle remains. The landscape of ancient Iran bore witness to this cosmic battle through ritual and memory. Every dawn was not merely the rising of the sun, but a daily victory of light over darkness. The prayers that filled the crisp desert air were not chants. Of tradition, they were weapons, invocations of the eternal flame that refused to be extinguished. The people of the earth, those followers of Asha, lived with an acute awareness that their days were not simply their own. To rise from sleep was to step onto the battlefield, to lie, to steal, to harm. These were not mere misdeeds, but alignments with the forces of decay. Even silence in the face of injustice was a form of submission to the Druj. The Zoroastrians, guardians of this sacred flame, practiced a faith not of worship alone, but of right living. Every fire temple stood as a beacon of resistance. Every clean thought, a hymn. Every honest trade, a prayer. Their spiritual hygiene was as strict as their physical cleanliness, for purity was not just a moral virtue, it was the very essence of the light they served. And yet, the destructive spirit was cunning. Ahriman did not always charge with fury. More often, he whispered. He infected thoughts, sowed seeds of doubt, turned the sacred into the familiar, the luminous into the mundane. His greatest weapon was not force, but forgetfulness, making mortals believe there was no war at all. Still, the memory endured. Zoroaster, the first prophet of choice, had left not just a creed, but a fire that could not be put out. His Gathas, the hymns of truth, echoed through centuries, surviving the fall of empires and the silence of buried temples. When the Achaemenid Empire rose, stretching its golden grasp from the Indus to the Nile, it did so with the wisdom of Ahura Mazda guiding its kings. Darius and Xerxes inscribed the name of the wise Lord on stone and decree, not as conquerors claiming divine right, but as shepherds tasked with the cosmic order. under the star-laced skies of Persepolis, kings understood themselves not as gods, but as stewards of the flame. Their justice was meant to mirror divine reason. Their governance, a reflection of celestial order. To rule unjustly was not merely poor kingship, was treason against Asha itself. But the story did not end with glory. The empires fell, the altars cracked, foreign armies trampled the fire temples. Yet the flame lived on, hidden, protected, whispered about in caves and deserts by the faithful few. Even when forgotten by the world, the Zoroastrian soul remembered the battle between light and darkness never needed monuments. It required memory. It demanded that men and women see their lives not as fleeting sparks, but as torches passed from prophet to follower, from elder to child. The world did not need to believe to be shaped by belief. Every truth lived kept the cosmos from collapse. In the heart of every follower burned a knowing that they stood not alone, but with Ahura Mazda, with the Amathia Spentis, with all who had ever chosen truth over ease. They were warriors, not in armor, but in spirit, tasked with guarding the gates of creation against erosion. The soul, in Zoroastrian vision, did not vanish in death. At the appointed time, each spirit crossed the Chinvat Bridge, a narrow passage that divided truth from falsehood. There, one's deeds became a guide or a weight. For the righteous, the bridge widened, leading to the house of song. For the deceitful, it thinned to a razor's edge and cast them into the house of lies. But even this was not eternal damnation. For Zoroastrianism offered a vision, unlike most ancient religions, cosmos, that would one day be healed completely. The wicked too would be purified in molten metal, not to be punished, but to be cleansed. A final mercy awaited all. This was not a naive optimism. It was cosmic justice, the belief that no darkness, no matter how deep, could remain forever. When faced with the tireless light, so the faithful endured. In the wind-swept highlands, by sacred fires that never ceased to burn, they passed the story on. Fathers taught sons, mothers lit lamps with trembling hands. Even when driven to the edges of empire, even when scattered by sword and time, they carried their mission in silence. Choose rightly, live justly, remember the flame,